Hi, everyone, and welcome to this edition of The Elevator, which, to remind the audience, it's a program to showcase people who have elevated themselves from backgrounds that we might not have expected to the positions that they're in, but also, more importantly, are elevating others around the world or in their professions. And a prime example of that is a dear friend and a professional colleague of mine, Derek Goodwin, who I've known, I think, for about 15 years. We've worked together in all places around the world, from the UK to everywhere else. Derek, now you're in the civil service, and people assume civil servants, and wrongly assume civil servants, are Eton, Harrow, Oxbridge, but actually you come from very humble backgrounds to be a consul general and then working in as a senior civil servant in the Department for International Trade. Can you tell us a bit about your background and how you got to where you are?
Yes, thanks, Alpesh. I guess the thing that I've always done, and whether it's conscious or subconscious, is taken advantage of opportunities that have been presented to me. So I grew up on a what one might describe as a council estate in southwest London back in the 60s, and I happened to, I guess, impress the school enough that they pushed me forward to go to the local grammar school, which was a school called Emmanuel School in southwest London, which is now a public school, but at the time was one of the top grammar schools in London, and managed to get a scholarship to the school, and found myself in an environment where I was I loved it. I mean, it was tough in terms of education, but the sporting opportunities that came to me as well made my whole time there just amazingly beneficial to me. It taught me a lot. Having said that, I also think that growing up on a council estate with, and I'm proud of that, it's not something that I would say that I'm not proud of, because that gave me a different perspective on life. That made me see sort of things in a different way. So I had this wonderful balance of going to a grammar school with some very privileged people, doing some amazing things, but also growing up with people with less privilege, but were wonderful people. So I had a real cross-section education, both in terms of schooling, but also in terms of life. I then sort of, the general passage from Emmanuel was to go to university, but I didn't find myself in a position where I necessarily wanted to do that. So all I knew was, and I focused on languages when I was at Emmanuel, so I could speak a bit of French, a bit of German, and all I knew, I fancied traveling. So I just happened to be reading a newspaper one day, and the civil service was advertising for people to go into what was the Department for Trade, and it started talking about international travel, etc. So I applied for that. I went to the Civil Service Commission, which was an examination, and got through into the executive grades. And there I was, the age of 20, managing a team of about 9 people and traveling across Europe. And I just thought how wonderful that was, because I think the thing about the civil service is that they empower you at a time that, perhaps from my own experience of working in the commercial, I've worked in the commercial world as well and during my career now. But I think you're empowered more when you're in government than perhaps when you are in the commercial world, probably because you're not going to, if you make a mistake, you're not going to make the company go bankrupt or whatever. So, but it was great. And so I just found myself on this path to international, working in the international field. And as I said, just finding opportunities. And as I said, my advice to anybody thinking of when they're leaving school or going to university is just look out for the opportunities and take them. I guess, I was fortunate. After I don't know whether this comes on to your next question, but after sort of finding myself working in Europe, and that was helping companies exporting, building export strategies, and building markets across Europe mainly, and then the US. And then I found myself doing essentially what I've been doing for the last 25 years, which is working with companies looking to established businesses in the UK.
Before we get to that,
sorry, yeah,
you said the advice is people to take the opportunities. What gave you the courage? I mean, why did you not think, oh, well, that's not for me? I mean, I think very often people self-select themselves out of positions. What gave you the confidence to think, yep, that'll do me, that I fit, even though you didn't have the conventional background people perceive of individuals in the civil service?
I guess it just goes back to my education. I had some really great a lot of masters at my school were mentors as well, and I think they sort of saw this working class kid, and I was a very small percentage of working class kids at that school. There was a sort of a quota, and I was one of the quota. But because I got through to the first 15 rugby team, I got through to the first 11 cricket team, I got into the top language classes. So I think because they saw me really roll my sleeves up and get on with it and try, that they took me aside at times and gave me that confidence and that inspiration that I needed. So I think that's the other thing when growing up. Look, I just had these wonderful masters of people that basically, I suppose, subconsciously made me feel that the world was my oyster. I mean, that's probably a little bit of an exaggeration. Not the world is my oyster, but essentially, nothing. Don't preclude yourself from anything that you're interested in, and follow your what you want to do, because no one else is going to do it for you. You've got to do it yourself. So yeah. I guess an inherent. So I'm inherently a self-starter and I'm self-motivated. But I guess when you combine that with people advice to take advantage of opportunities, then that's a winning combination, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they elevated you, but you put yourself in a position where that you showed them you were willing to make the effort, put the hard work in, and
nothing. I guess that's the point. Nothing comes for nothing. You don't get anything for free. You have to put in the effort, and you have to impress people enough to for them to take a risk with you or not, as the case may be. But yeah, I mean, opportunities are presented to you, but then you have to go for them. And you need to have confidence. I guess I have confidence in things that I have an interest in, and as I said, the idea of working internationally was something that I was really interested in, and it gave me the inspiration to do that.
Well, let's turn to that. You've been, the phrase I've often used is you get to put on the England shirt. Well, it's actually the UK shirt. You've been in the privileged position of being able to represent your country around the world, help elevate the country in terms of creating jobs, bringing in investments. Tell me about the direction you're taking that program you're leading in. Tell us a bit about the program, but more importantly, how you're using it as a vehicle to elevate not just the UK, but actually other parts of the world, because you're looking to solve some of the biggest problems in the world. So you've had this platform, and now you're using it at a scale which actually most people wouldn't think of doing. Tell me more about that.
So I spent the 90s, end of the 90s, early 2000s, working in the United States through that amazing .com bonanza, the first .com bonanza. And I saw how technology and entrepreneurship, when you combine them, creates an amazingly powerful force. Entrepreneurs develop, innovate much more than corporations. So having seen that firsthand, I came back to the UK and found myself invited to work in what is the Global Entrepreneur Program. And the program's task was tasked with trying to prove the theory of the government of the day, which was, if we attract entrepreneurs to the UK, you will create a melting pot of innovation and entrepreneurship in the UK and therefore benefit the UK economy. And I was very much a disciple of that, having seen how technology and innovation in the United States created this. So people don't realize that when Microsoft and those companies came out, they were born out of a recession, a massive recession in the United States. And from that, you have sort of the thing called Silicon Valley. And so technology and innovation are powerful. They really can provide a powerful response. So I helped to create what is the Global Entrepreneur Program. And I guess that's, if you ask what does the program do, well, for the last 15 years, we've been attracting really great entrepreneurs to the UK so that they can scale and internationalize their technology businesses here, leveraging the UK ecosystem to achieve their success. So that's that very broadly. However, what's happened in the last sort of 4 or 5 years is that, I guess it was happening before that, but I think it's got to a critical point now where the emerging economies of the world have realized we are as good as anybody else in terms of developing technology. We are as good as anybody else at developing innovation. They just don't have ecosystems at their disposal in order to scale their businesses and raise sufficient funding and find people and find markets, etc. But they are doing amazing things. Coupled with that is the fact that because they are third emerging economies and they are in a difficult situation, very difficult situation in terms of their local economies and the governance within their countries, etc. It's really tough to be an entrepreneur there. So many of them are developing solutions and technologies to help their community, to help their countries, but also to help them globally, so in terms of healthcare, in terms of environmental technologies. So many of these technologies have massive social impact. So I've sort of been, as head of the program, Global Entrepreneur Program, it's sort of my responsibility to sort of set the direction. But we are in amazing times at the moment. And I know COVID has been awful and it's been a real bad year in terms of that. But I think out of it will be even more opportunity for the world to embrace technology and innovation in a way which makes the world a better place. And that sounds very cheesy, I know. But we as a program have been working now for the last 4 years. We've increased our footprint across the whole of Latin America, much more in Africa. And as you know, working with you as well across Asia. And we are empowering and we are motivating entrepreneurs and founders in those countries. We're giving them the ability to change their lives, change their communities' lives, and change the economic situation of their countries by giving them access to the UK ecosystem so that they can basically develop a business which will scale and internationalize from the UK, but much of that economic benefit and everything else will go back to that country, thereby creating sort of role models so that other people develop technology companies. So out of that, you're creating this amazing global community of entrepreneurs and founders who's obviously are looking to generate revenues and be economically successful. That's a given, and that we encourage that for obvious reasons. But at the same time, the fact that they're building solutions to make a difference for themselves and the communities means that they will be making a difference globally. So it's social impact now is a real key driver in what we're doing, because we can bring in entrepreneurs quite easily. The model we've proven it. We've done over 1,000 deals in 400 in the last couple of years of companies, real high value founders coming into the UK. But now I see it as an opportunity for us as a country, using the wealth that we have in our country to empower people in difficult communities and ecosystems so that they can scale their high value businesses from here.
And Derek, we know that some of these companies that you've brought over here through your team, through your work, look at somebody like Carbon Clean Solutions, which is carbon extraction from the environment, or you've got healthcare companies, and health tech companies, which are obviously the companies of the moment that we're all after. Why, you said we can just bring entrepreneurs over. What made you pivot into the bigger picture? I mean, everybody sitting at their desk will be thinking, well, I can do my job. I can tick the boxes. I can, hit my targets. But why did you pivot that to, well, hang on, no, I want companies which solve the world's greatest problems. Why make life harder for yourself?
We all like a challenge, don't we? I guess it's just about, I am fortunate in my job to travel to many of these parts of the world. And I've spent a lot of time recently in Latin America and in Africa and in Asia. And you build very close relationships with the people there. And when you're at an event I'll give you an example, I'm in Sao Paulo, and a guy who's now based in the north of England, who's got it's a very good gaming company. He stood up and said, "Derek, you've changed my life today." We ran an event there. We were basically helping people improve their pitching skills. And this guy, he knew he was poor at pitching his business. So he came along. At the end of the day, he came up to me and said, "Derek, can I pitch to you?" And I said, "Yeah." And he pitched. I said, "That's fantastic, person." And he said, "Thank you. You've changed my life." And he stood up in the event and said, "Derek, you've changed my life." And now that business is here in the UK. It's in Sao Paulo, and they're generating sales and revenues in a number of markets. So when you hear that from people, why wouldn't you want to scale that? Why wouldn't you want to help people? Because I think trying to address third world problems is much more fun than trying to address first world. And making sure that the emerging economies, but the other thing is as well, it benefits the UK. This isn't just me being this wonderful sort of person that wants to do good across the world. Obviously, I do, but I also want to make sure that the UK benefits from that. And these technologies and the activities, they're national. They can go anywhere in the UK. So we're contributing to the levelling up agenda, try to spread economic wealth across the UK and make sure it doesn't all go in London and the South East. Now I know that that's a government policy, but I think it's important that the economy is spread over. So bringing people, they don't mind where they are. They want to go to a network which can help them scale and grow their business. And many of those places are across the UK. So why wouldn't you want to do that? Why would you just want to sit back and help companies set up a business here to generate revenues and so that their shareholders, etc., are pleased with the performance? That's fine, but surely there's more to that. And as I go back to my experiences of seeing how technology and innovation can have a massive impact. The impact then in the United States became global. It sort of crashed for a little while, but that was the beginning of everything. So now, with the technology that's available and the world's problems that are going on, how can we come out of COVID now? And I think it's even, as I said, it's an opportunity, because one thing I love about working with entrepreneurs is they never see a challenge as a negative thing. They see a challenge as a positive. A challenge, and any threat, let's build something to solve it. Let's come up with, so they see everything as an opportunity. And I guess some of that must have rubbed off, or perhaps I shared that anyway. But I think that, why wouldn't you want to do that? Why wouldn't you want to try and make communities globally better and use technology to do that?
I think a useful lesson from what you've said is, whatever your role, whatever job you're in, is to find that bigger purpose, because I know it requires the passion and energy of having that bigger purpose, because I've been on those trips with you where it is, almost 20-hour days, and you've got meetings as soon as you land at in internal airports, and it could be 10 at night, or it could be at 7 in the morning, or alarm bells at 4 a.m. to get to the airport for the next city, 3 or 4 cities in a week and all the rest of it. And you'd need to have that passion and energy to do it. Derek, time is beating us. Before I ask the final question, I mean, look, you're clearly somebody who's elevated not just the civil service by being a role model, not just the UK from all these companies with passion and aplomb that you've brought to the UK. But also, I've got to ask you, put all of that to one side. What's next for you? I know you love golf. Are you going to stay? Do you think you'll stay in the corporate world? You must have the world's greatest Rolodex. Invaluable individual. What do you think? What will be next for you? Is it just going to be, right, I'm going to do this till I drop, or I'm going to go to the I was going to say golf pitch, but golf green, or is it going to be, I'm always going to do a bit of everything?
That's a very good question, and I haven't got an answer to that. First of all, thank you for your very kind words about me. As I said, I just feel that I've just done the things that I wanted to. I feel very privileged to have been able to get involved in the things that I've done. What's next for me? I guess there are some constraints in government to doing some of this, and I would perhaps like to work with investors to try and get them to invest more in some of the businesses that I engage with. And perhaps I also like the idea of trying to help build ecosystems in globally. So working in some of these economies where it's tougher and understanding what an ecosystem looks like, trying to do some of that, which would obviously be outside of the government remit. I don't know. I would like to continue with this, the purpose that you talk about, because it's almost it becomes a passion, and it becomes almost a drug to some extent. The desire to work in this space and to work with people that are just incredible founders, incredible human beings. And how I do that, I don't know, but I wouldn't want to let go of it and play golf. I mean, golf once or twice a week that's enough for me.
I think, Derek, I think those entrepreneurs aren't going to let go of you either. And I don't think the civil service is going to let go of you either. None of us are going to let go of you. So you might have to just squeeze the golf in around all us demanding your time. I have to say, it's been a privilege, not just to do this with you, but I think to me it was clearly it was a good 20 minutes of showing how inspiring you've been, because I've known you for 15 years, which is half my adult working life as well, and I've been to everywhere from Shanghai to Delhi to Hong Kong to Kuala Lumpur, and I think, as well as the hard work, it's been an incredible privilege putting on the UK shirt alongside you. So thank you for that from a personal basis, but thank you for sharing all of this with our audience. I think it's going to be invaluable advice to them, whether they're looking at the civil service, whether they're looking at the Department for International Trade, whether they're looking at public service or entrepreneurship. I think you've given a perspective to them which will be uplifting. Thank you very much indeed, Derek Goodwin.
Thanks, Alpesh.